Genesis chapter 46 contains references to many of the major themes of the book. God's covenants and promises, his faithfulness to them, and even the documentation of Abraham's family fall into this category. But the chapter also contains one of the emotional high watermarks of the book in the reunion of Jacob and Joseph. It is this that I want to focus on. See, in the closing verses of the previous chapter, we see that when Jacob is told that his favorite son Joseph was still alive and that he was actually a lord in Egypt, we're told that Jacob did not believe the words that were being said to him. In fact, he sort of closed himself off to any sort of hope. The deceiver was not about to be deceived again in this regard. It wasn't until there was tangible evidence in the form of this Egyptian caravan that had come to take them back to Egypt that Jacob dared to consider the truth about Joseph. This brings us to the beautiful reunion story at the end of chapter 46. Now, I'll admit that I am a sucker for reunions like this. Whether it's soldiers coming home from a foreign country or just getting back together with loved ones after a period of time, there is power and significance and wonder in seeing someone again, face to face, after an extended period of separation. Verse 29 captures this emotion by simply stating that Joseph embraced his father and clung to him and wept for a good while. All of this points us, of course, to a greater truth. That is the fact that all of us will one day have a reunion of sorts with God. Now, for unbelievers, this reunion will be terrifying. They will stand before the holy God and give an account of their lives and face the judgment that is due them. But for believers, for those whose sins have been atoned for by the blood of Christ, this reunion will be the beginning of an eternity in God's glorious presence. This promised reunion is a source of hope. For as Jesus said in John chapter 14, that he would in time return for his followers that they might be with him where he is. Again, in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, we are encouraged with the truth that through the work of Jesus, God will bring Christians to himself. And it is for this reason, the text says, that we do not grieve like others who have no hope. So we know from reading the book of Genesis that it was God's plan all along to reunite Joseph and his family in Egypt. In the same way, it is God's will for us to spend eternity with him, with whose image we bear. And so the question really becomes for us is whether or not we will accept God's gift of forgiveness and salvation through Jesus Christ. For if we do, we have a reunion with our Heavenly Father ahead of us that makes this story in Genesis 46 just pale in comparison. So as you read this text, may God bless us. May God draw us to himself as we read his word.